We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
The deadly coronavirus epidemic spreads further outside China, with a surge of infections in South Korea making it the biggest hotspot abroad.
All 8 airports on Spain's Canary Islands reopened on Monday, a day after a sandstorm shrouded the archipelago, forcing their closure.
U.S. President Donald Trump received a red carpet welcome in the world's biggest democracy Monday, addressing a huge rally at a mega cricket stadium on a maiden official visit to India.
A Mona Lisa, as puzzling as the smile of Leonardo da Vinci's muse, made out of nearly 300 Rubik's Cubes, sold for nearly €500,000 at auction in Paris on Sunday evening.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. The deadly coronavirus epidemic spread further outside China on Monday as a surge of infections in South Korea made it the biggest hotspot abroad. Another 161 infections and 2 more deaths were reported in South Korea on Monday, bringing the total cases to more than 700 people. This most outside China. The most outside China. South Korean President Moon Jae-in raised the country's virus alert to the highest red level to strengthen the government response to the spiraling outbreak. Take a look.
코로나19 사태가 중대한 분수령을 맞았습니다. 지금부터 며칠이 매우 중요한 고비입니다. 이에 정부는 감염병 전문가들의 권고에 따라 위기 경보를 최고 단계인 심각 단계로 올려 대응 체계를 대폭 강화해 나가겠습니다.
A rising number of new cases and deaths in other parts of the world have deepened fears about a potential pandemic, with South Korea, Italy, and Iran emerging over the past week on the front lines. Most of the South Korea's cases are connected to the Shinjeonji Church of Jesus in Daegu, including 129 of Monday's confirmation, the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement. 2 more people had died, it added, both of them connected to a second cluster around the hospital, taking the toll to 7. More than 100 cases have been confirmed at the Dainam Hospital in Cheongdu, near Daegu, most of them inpatients being treated for mental illnesses. Among the new cases were 18 people recently returned from a group pilgrimage to Israel, according to the KCDC. It was unclear how they had been infected, but authorities said one of the victims were likely exposed to the virus before their trip, given Israel has reported only 1 confirmed COVID-19 case so far. Israel has issued an entry ban on South Koreans and refused to allow non-Israelis to disembark from a Korean airplane on Saturday. The U.S. State Department on Saturday raised its travel advisory for South Korea, joining a handful of countries bolstering their vigilance after its rapid spike in the number of infections.
China's death toll from the new coronavirus rose to 2,592 on Monday after the National Health Commission reported 150 more fatalities, all but 1 in the epicenter of Hubei province. Monday's death toll was a jump on the 97 deaths reported Sunday. The commission also confirmed a total of 409 new cases in China, with all but 11 in Hubei. Multiple provinces have reported 0 new infections for several days in a row, even as the situation continues to worsen within Hubei and outside of China. China's numbers of daily new infections are well down from the outbreak's early height. Only 1 death was reported outside of Hubei on Monday in Hainan province, where the official Xinhua news agency said a 55-year-old doctor had died. The coronavirus has spread to more than 25 countries and is causing mounting alarm due to new pockets of outbreaks in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia.
Meanwhile, Italy reported Monday its fifth death from the new coronavirus. An 84-year-old man in the northern Lombardy region, as the number of people contracting the virus continued to mount. It was the third death in Lombardy, where villages have been put in lockdown and security measures enforced in a bid to stem the spread of the disease, according to the region's health department. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has said that residents could face weeks of lockdown in an effort to set out the virus. The president of the Lombardy region, Attilio Fontana, said 165 people had now tested positive in the region, the worst hit zone in Italy. The country now has the most confirmed cases in Europe. 11 towns, 10 in Lombardy and 1 in neighboring Veneto, are under lockdown with some 50,000 residents prohibited from leaving. Regional authorities have ordered gathering spots such as bars, restaurants, and discos to close. The spread of the virus has disrupted high-profile events, including Milan Fashion Week and the Venice Carnival, while Serie A football matches have been postponed. Operas have also had to be canceled at Milan's famed La Scala. Churches are being kept open, but all Catholic masses have been canceled.
In Iran, authorities ordered the closure of schools, universities, and cultural centers across 14 provinces following 8 deaths, the most outside East Asia. The outbreak in the Islamic Republic surfaced on Wednesday last week and quickly grew to 43 confirmed infections, prompting neighboring countries to close their borders. 4 immediate neighbors of the Islamic Republic, Turkey, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Armenia, said on Sunday they would close land borders, while 3 imposed restrictions on air traffic amid growing regional concerns about the spread of the virus. Iraqi and Kuwaiti authorities have already banned travel to and from Iran. Both Afghanistan and Pakistan share long, porous borders with Iran that are often used by smugglers and human traffickers, while millions of Afghan refugees live in the Islamic Republic, raising fears that the virus could easily spread over the border. Other regional countries on Sunday also took major precautionary measures to counter the virus potentially spreading from Iran. Jordan said it would bar entry to citizens of China, Iran, and South Korea, and other foreigners traveling from those countries. The Kuwait Port Authority, meanwhile, announced a ban on the entry of all ships from the Islamic Republic. Meanwhile, Iran's health minister Saeed Namaki said the treatment of COVID-19 cases would be free.
In a related news, Iran's supreme leader accused foreign media of trying to use a deadly coronavirus outbreak to sabotage a general election, as authorities scrambled on Sunday to contain the disease. The final results of the parliamentary election are due on Sunday, 2 days after they were held, on the heels of the confirmation of novel coronavirus cases in the country. A low turnout had been widely forecast, as a conservative-dominated electoral watchdog disqualified about half the 16,000-odd candidates, mostly moderates and reformists. Voter apathy marked the polls, but Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, lauded the people's huge participation despite what he termed this negative propaganda. The COVID-19 outbreak has claimed the lives of 5 people in Iran since Wednesday, and they were the first deaths from the disease in the Middle East. Authorities have ordered as a preventive measure the closure of schools, universities, and other educational centers in 14 provinces across the country from Sunday.
Afghanistan has detected 3 novel coronavirus cases, according to the country's health minister said Monday, a day after Kabul announced it would suspend air and ground travel to Iran, where 12 people have died from the outbreak. Critics fear a coronavirus outbreak could pose a serious challenge for authorities in Afghanistan. Years of war have turned an already poor healthcare system, which many Afghans have limited or no access into one of the world's worst. One Filipino national tested positive for the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 in Singapore, the Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed Sunday. Citing reports from the Philippine Embassy in Singapore, Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Brigido Dulay said this is the first confirmed case involving a Filipino in the city-state. He said in a statement that, quote, Singapore PE is in close contact with Singapore officials to monitor the condition and well-being of our kababayan. Amid the rapid spreading COVID-19, Singapore recently raised its disease outbreak response system condition to orange, meaning the disease is severe and easily spreads from one person to another. The same alert level was last hoisted in Singapore during the severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS outbreak.
Meanwhile, Kuwait and Bahrain confirmed on Monday their first novel coronavirus cases, according to health ministries in the two Gulf states, adding all had come from Iran. Now, Kuwait reported 3 infections and Bahrain death toll rose to 12 now on Monday, with the outbreak prompting travel bans from nearby countries. Last week, Kuwait banned entry of all ships from the Islamic Republic and a third of Kuwait's 1.4 million citizens are Shiite Muslims who travel regularly to Iran to visit religious shrines. Kuwait also hosts roughly 50,000 Iranian workers. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at
We are living during the most extraordinary time in human history.
All transport will go fully electric.
Es wird eine völlig neue Mobilität geben, meine Damen und Herren.
Rev, the new auto show on DW. Getting you into gear on cutting-edge developments.
Wasserstofferzeugung braucht Energie.
We focus on green technology.
Das Auto ist im Betrieb absolut emissionsfrei.
And also feature head-to-heads. And the latest launches.
Das Fahrgefühl war gut, er lässt sich sehr gut fahren, er liegt sehr gut auf der Straße.
And mobility stories from around the world.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. It's time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
A magnitude 5.7 earthquake in northwestern Iran on Sunday killed at least 8 people in neighboring Turkey and injured dozens more on both sides of the border, authorities said. Health Minister Faritin Koka said 21 people were injured and 8 of them were in critical condition, according to Anadolu. Turkish broadcaster NTV showed images of collapsed adobe houses in several snow-covered villages in Van province on the Iran border. The epicenter of the quake, which struck at 9:23 a.m., was near the Iranian village of Habash-e-Olya, less than 10 kilometers from the border, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The earthquake had a depth of 6 kilometers, according to Tehran University's Seismological Center. It injured at least 40 people, and 17 of them have been hospitalized in Iran's West Azerbaijan province, according to the country's emergency services. The same source also said there was damage to buildings in 43 villages. Iran sits on top of major tectonic plates and sees frequent seismic activity.
Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, at 94 years old, the world's oldest leader, submitted his resignation to the king on Monday after a bid by his political partners to bring down the government. Mr. Mahathir's shock resignation comes amid rumors that he may form a new coalition without his designated successor, Anwar Ibrahim. We have a report coming in from our Malaysia Bureau. Here's Ruby Tinawin.
Malaysian Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has announced his resignation as Prime Minister today and has also reportedly resigned from his own party.
The shocking news came hours after a weekend of political turmoil that he may form a new coalition and new government without his promised successor, Anwar Ibrahim. His resignation as Prime Minister marked the second time in the nation's history. At the age of 94, Dr. Mahathir was not only the world's oldest Prime Minister, but also have the merit of being both Malaysia's longest-serving and shortest-serving Prime Minister. No further announcement was made as to who will be the next Prime Minister or whether general elections will be held anytime soon.
It's quite shocking. And I think nobody expected this to happen. We knew there would be some changes, but we didn't expect it to be a big change where the whole government will actually be moving over. And Dr. Mahathir's resignation, I think, has made a big impact with a lot of parties. Most of them are really unsure now of where we stand. Initially, we supported PKR to come in, and now we don't even know if there is another political party to support. Whether it's correct or not, I leave it up to the experts, but I think the timing is a bit dangerous because it also affected our economy, where it's quite bad, and also immediately impacted the ringgit. So it's quite a big impact. Thank you.
Hi, viewers in Philippines. I'm Shan here. In fact, Malaysians are quite upset and very sad about Dr. M's resignation, and this is quite unexpected, and we are not really sure how to handle the situation at this point of time. As public, we are still monitoring the situation, and we hope the crisis will come to end as soon as possible. You never know, anything can happen at this point of time, but we always hope for a better Malaysia. And of course, Dr. M has done a lot of work, and has created a lot of welfare for the Malaysians as a whole. But without him, it's going to be quite tough for Malaysia to progress further. Although there are ups and downs, but he's really a good leader and statesman, and we hope that our current situation will be ended in a very fruitful and cordial manner, all right? And I mean, all the best, Malaysia. Thank you.
From my point of view as an expat who working in Malaysia, it's quite surprising that Mahathir resigned himself before he's out of term with his prime minister. And what my opinion about his resignation is, I think there will be a quite major change of the regulation and rules, and maybe it will affect for expats like me and my friends. I hope there will be a good rule and fair for us expats. That's all.
The public may have different sentiments and reactions, but it is hoped that Malaysia's political crisis can be resolved peacefully for the sake of the people and the country. Reporting from Subang Jaya, Malaysia, this is Ruby Tinawi, and I am one with 25.
Two Wall Street Journal reporters left China on Monday after being expelled over a controversial headline in an op-ed that angered Beijing. Three reporters were ordered out of the country last week over what Beijing deemed a racist headline that the journalists were not involved in writing, marking one of the harshest moves against foreign media in years. But analysts noted that the decision to revoke their press credentials came a day after Washington tightened rules on Chinese state media operating in the United States, raising suspicion that Beijing had retaliated. The journal opinion piece, headlined "China is the real sick man of Asia," was written by a U.S. professor who criticized the Chinese government's initial response to the coronavirus outbreak. China's foreign ministry said it was racially discriminatory, and as the newspaper would not apologize, the three China-based reporters had their press cards revoked. Deputy Bureau Chief Josh Chin and reporter Chow Deng, both U.S. nationals, as well as reporter Philip Wen, an Australian, were given 5 days to leave the country, according to the journal. The three journalists work for the Wall Street Journal's news section, which is not linked to the editorial and opinion pages. We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Earth, home to millions of species, a home worth saving. Global Ideas tells stories of creative people and innovative projects around the world. Ideas that protect the climate, boost green energy solutions, and reforestation. Using interactive content to inspire people to take action. Global Ideas, the environment series of Global 3000.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump received the red carpet welcome in the world's biggest democracy Monday, addressing a huge rally at a mega cricket stadium on a maiden official visit to India. That is big on photo opportunities, but likely short on substance. Name-checking Bollywood films and Indian cricketers, President Trump, with an eye on elections in November, paid tribute to the 4 million-strong Indian-American diaspora as truly special people. Let's listen in.
In just 70 years, India has become an economic giant, the largest democracy ever to exist, and one of the most amazing nations anywhere in the world. Since the turn of the century, India's economy has grown more than 6 times in size. In a single decade, India has lifted over 270 million people out of poverty. This is the country that produces nearly 2,000 movies a year from the hub of genius and creativity known as Bollywood. And I am pleased to announce that tomorrow our representatives will sign deals to sell over $3 billion in the absolute finest state-of-the-art military helicopters and other equipment to the Indian Armed Forces. I believe that the United States should be India's premier defense partner, and that's the way it's working out. Together we will defend our sovereignty, security, and protect a free and open Indo-Pacific region for our children and for many, many generations to come. Between our two countries, we will be making very, very major, among the biggest ever made, trade deals. We are in the early stages of discussion for an incredible trade agreement to reduce barriers of investment between the United States and India. And I am optimistic that working together, the Prime Minister and I can reach a fantastic deal that's good and even great for both of our countries.
The commitment of America and the leadership of President Trump in defeating terrorism has rendered yeoman's service to the entire humanity. And therefore, I believe that the visit of a distinguished leader and close friend of India like President Trump to India in the beginning of this decade itself represents a great opportunity. The initiatives that we have taken in recent times for strengthening India-US relations will now, with this visit, enter their next phase. We are inspired by a long-term vision, not just by short-term considerations.
Shaking hands, a warm hug.
Behind the platitudes, a blossoming bromance between the two leaders lies a fraught relationship worsened by the trade protectionism of both governments. President Trump has called India the tariff king and said before his visit that Asia's third largest economy had been hitting U.S. very, very hard for many years. Rather than a wide-ranging trade deal, reports said President Trump and Prime Minister Modi may instead sign smaller agreements covering products such as Harley-Davidson motorcycles and U.S. dairy products. We are in the early stages of discussions for an incredible trade agreement. President Trump told the rally, calling Modi a very tough negotiator. The two men were expected to sign a number of defense deals during the visit and to discuss the supply of 6 nuclear reactors.
और इन सब के बीच
Donald Trump and wife Melania tour Mahatma Gandhi's former home in Ahmedabad alongside Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the U.S. President and First Lady are welcomed to the Western Indian city on their whistle-stop 36-hour official visit.
Here we go. They got it spread.
Reasons. He could serve the country better through his...
Modi ji will receive or restore sense of peace that permeates the air. His words, this is where Mahatma Gandhi stayed during
he came to be known as Mahatma Gandhi.
Of his constructive program as a representation of Swadeshi, self-sufficiency, and at the same time, for most people trying the charkha for the first time, it can be a little under.
Meanwhile, Seoul led a sharp drop across Asian equity markets on Monday as South Korea announced a surge in COVID-19 infections, while oil plunged and safe haven assets rallied on growing concerns about a possible pandemic. With the outbreak showing little sign of easing, investors are increasingly concerned it could have a much longer-term impact on the world economy, which was already stuttering, with a number of companies warning about their bottom lines. Traders had been broadly optimistic that the virus, which has killed nearly 2,600 and infected 80,000, was being contained outside China, but a spurt of infections and deaths in other countries, including South Korea, Italy, and Iran, has fanned fears of a wider outbreak. On Monday, South Korea reported 161 more cases, taking its total to 763 and making it the world's worst-hit country outside China, with 7 people now dead. President Moon Jae-in has raised the virus alert level to the highest red level in a bid to strengthen the government response to the spiraling outbreak. News of the spread hammered the Kospi, which sank almost 4%, with market heavyweight Samsung diving 4.1%. The won fell 0.9% and is sitting at a 6-month low. Hong Kong shed 1.6%, with Sydney, Bangkok, and Manila each dropping more than 2%. Taipei, Jakarta, Singapore, and Wellington were all off more than 1%. Mumbai eased 0.8%, with eyes on President Trump's visit to India. Shanghai was off 0.3%, with losses tempered by a series of economy-boosting measures, including support for businesses and other stimulus measures.
Amid the global outbreak of the coronavirus, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said they're expecting slightly lower cash remittances from overseas Filipino workers this year. He also emphasized that the impact would be minimal. Let's listen in.
We also expect the outbreak to have a minimal effect or impact on OFW remittances. In terms of remittances, keep in mind that mainland China account for only 0.1% of total OFW remittances, while Macau and Hong Kong account for 0.4% and 2.7% respectively. In estimating the impact of COVID-19 on OFW cash remittances, the Department of Labor and Employment inputted the following assumption. First, full year 2020 growth rate assumption of overseas Filipino cash remittances of 3%. Number 2, full year 2020 cash remittances from China, including its special administrative regions, at 6.1%. And number 3, decline in the growth rate of cash remittances during the severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS episode. So based on these assumptions, we expect that the COVID-19 outbreak could dampen our total cash remittance growth in 2020 by 0.8 percentage points from 3.0% to 2.2%. In other words, while remittances from overseas Filipinos reached a record high of $33.5 billion last 2019, we were actually expecting this to increase to $34.5 billion in remittances this year, with a projected growth of 3%. But because of this COVID-19 epidemic, we have adjusted our growth projections to 2.2% and now expect $34.2 billion in remittances for 2020. Nevertheless, this shall still breach another record high in overseas Filipino remittances. DOLE also assures us that remittances from other source countries such as the US, UAE, and Saudi Arabia may help compensate for the possible slowdown in remittances coming from China, Macau, and Hong Kong. And we are encouraged by historical data that shows that Philippine remittances have been resilient even in the face of global downtrends.
Citing information from the Department of Labor and Employment, he said remittances from other source countries such as the United States, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia might help compensate for the possible or possible slowdown in remittances coming from China, Macau, and Hong Kong. In terms of remittances, China accounts for 0.1% of total OFW remittances, while Macau and Hong Kong account for 0.4% and 2.7% respectively.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Watch your favorite Net25 shows on OSN channel 725, same day as the Philippines.
Net25 is now available on OSN, the largest entertainment network in the Middle East and North Africa.
Watch your favorite Net25 shows live
and on demand anytime, anywhere on
any mobile device on OSN Play.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
In Good Shape, your weekly health show on DW that covers many aspects of healthcare. We look at what's new in medical treatment, nutrition, fitness, and beauty. We discuss these topics in depth with specialists.
All 8 airports on Spain's Canary Islands reopened on Monday, a day after a sandstorm shrouded the archipelago, forcing their closure, according to the Transport Ministry. Take a look. ENARE, the public body that manages Spanish airspace, said flights had resumed after an improvement in the haze. Air travel was disrupted on the archipelago on Saturday after strong winds carrying red sand from the Sahara shrouded the tourist hotspot in a murky haze, forcing the cancellation or diversion of flights to and from the islands of Gran Canaria and Tenerife. About 1,000 locals and tourists were evacuated in Tenerife as a precaution because of the risk from blazes which broke out near built-up areas in 6 municipalities on the north of the island amid scorching temperatures, according to the head of the local government of Tenerife, Pedro Marin. Strong winds also prevented water-dropping aircraft from putting out fires in Tazarte village in southwest Gran Canaria, which have scorched around 300 hectares of land and forced 500 people to be evacuated. Located off the coast of Morocco, the Canary Islands are a popular tourist destination for Northern Europeans seeking winter sunshine. Now, they received 13.1 million foreign visitors last year, according to National Statistics Institute INE figures, making it Spain's 3rd most visited region.
China on Monday declared an immediate and comprehensive ban on the trade and consumption of wild animals, a practice believed responsible for the deadly coronavirus outbreak. The country's top legislative committee met on Monday and approved a proposal on comprehensively prohibiting the illegal wildlife trade, abolishing the bad habit of overconsumption of wildlife, and effectively protecting the lives and health of the people. The Standing Committee is responsible for convening the 3,000-member NPC, but is widely expected to postpone the annual session due to the health crisis. Chinese health officials have said the virus likely emerged from a market in the central city of Wuhan that sold wild animals as food. China instituted a similar temporary ban after the SARS, or that severe acute respiratory syndrome, virus killed hundreds of people in China and Hong Kong in 2002-2003 and was also traced to wild animal consumption. But the wildlife trade soon resumed. Health experts say it poses a significant and growing public health risk by exposing humans to dangerous animal-borne pathogens. The exact source of the coronavirus remains unconfirmed, with scientists variously speculated it originated in bats, pangolins, and some other mammals. Scientists say SARS likely originated in bats, later reaching humans via civets. Civets, a cat-like creature, were among dozens of species listed as for sale by one of the merchants at the Wuhan market, according to a price list that circulated on China's internet. Other items included rats, snakes, giant salamanders, and live wolf pups.
And the Iglesia Ni Cristo launched a cleanup drive in Malaysia. Ruby Tinawin is back with the details.
Members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo in the District of Malaysia have been mobilized to participate in community cleanup drive held simultaneously in different parts of this country. Organized through the leadership of the district supervising minister, Brother Alan King Mercado, the voluntary event attracts the participation of both young and adult members of this religious organization. The community cleanup drive, also known to the locals as Gotong Royong, was participated by the church members from the local congregations of Kuala Lumpur, Subanjaya, Bangsar, Penang, Melaka, Vestarijaya, and Genting. Plastic containers, bottles, cigarette butts, and other biodegradable trash items were collected during the cleanup. This is yet another act of kindness of the Iglesia Ni Cristo members in collaboration with the respective local municipal councils and authorities in those cities, who have also provided the volunteers cleaning tools and garbage bags during the cleanup. Mr. Ken Chia, councillor from Subangjaya Municipal Council, together with some of his constituents, have also participated in this activity. He thanked the Iglesia Ni Cristo members for their continuous support and active role in helping the community and the local council. The said cleanup drive is part of the community social responsibility project of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, whose aim is to create awareness on the importance of preserving and maintaining a cleaner and greener environment for the sake of the future generation. This is also aligned with one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal to create sustainable cities and communities. A small act of kindness shows that we care. By simply picking up trash, help reassure members of the community that they are cared for and that the place we live in are important to us. Reporting from Malaysia, this is Ruby Tinawin, and I am one with 25.
A Mona Lisa as puzzling as the smile of Leonardo da Vinci's muse, made out of nearly 300 Rubik's Cubes, sold for nearly €500,000 at auction in Paris on Sunday evening. Created by the French street artist Frank Slama, famous of the pixelated Space Invader mosaics that have popped up on city streets around the world, the Rubik Mona Lisa sold for €480,000, or that's $521,000, a record for the artist, Art Curiel auction house said. Its guide price was €120,000 to €150,000. Slama, who works under the pseudonym Invader, has playfully styled himself the founder of a new school of art that uses the iconic 1980s puzzle as the medium Rubik's Cubism. The 2005 Rubik Mona Lisa was the first in a series of pieces inspired by the great paintings in history. Slama has also produced pixelated reproductions of Edouard Manet's 1863 masterpiece, The Luncheon on the Grass, as well as Gustave Courbet's The Origin of the World. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's the news for tonight. Join us online and here again tomorrow evening. From all of us here at Eagle News, thank you and we'll see you soon. I'm Alma Angeles and we're one with 25.